Absolutely. No, I think that's the great differentiator between B2B and B2C. I mean, or even on the same B2C side, is the sales cycle length has such a, driver of almost your strategy of how you need to look at it. If I'll use when I owned a real estate business and it was vacation homes in the worst real estate market possible. So, I mean, that actually had a, secondary effect of making people less apt to be ready to buy a vacation home because the economy really was terrible. Yeah. So, but on the flip side, the really interesting thing was when we looked at it over time, there were always conversions and people did come back via social media and we did find them via Facebook or we would retarget them. But, looking at it in the aggregate showed much different results than looking at it in that short term. Mm-hmm. What happened this month? I have 42, page views from Twitter or Facebook. Yeah. And you're like, oh, well, we put out all these tweets. That doesn't seem like it's very worthwhile. But really, it is a important part of it.
Yeah, I think the trick to social media, quite honestly, is don't expect immediate results. Mm-hmm. It's going to take time. You've got to get your brand out there first. You've got to build that affinity. And then ultimately, whether you're B2C, B2B, put out a product and service that and make sure you're reaching that right audience that speaks to them and gets them interested. The more you educate, I always say, if you're asking someone to do something, so you want them to click through to your website, give them a reason to click. Mm-hmm. If you're on the street and someone walked up to you and said, "Hey, I'm Kevin, here's a cake," you're probably not going to be too comfortable taking that cake away from Kevin. Yeah. But if Kevin actually introduced himself and you saw him a couple of times during the rest of the week, and then he came up to you and said, "Hey, I've been baking a cake. I'm a baker in the local area. Would you like a cake? It's just one we had left over in the shop, and I'm trying to give it to someone." You've seen him, you know him, you trust him. You'd probably take the cake, but off a first time interaction, you're not going to.
Oh, that's funny. My wife, being a teacher, gets sometimes homemade Christmas gifts. Oh, and it's always funny, teacher.
The ultimate potluck, right?
Yeah. Teachers in general, all of a sudden they're like, "Well, did these kids wash their hands before they?"
Yeah, I'd be highly skeptical of that myself.
Oh, but it's funny when you stop and think about the power of social media. Now, if the kid had a, Twitter or a Facebook following where they were, one of these kid chefs making recipes, you'd probably be like, oh, way more apt to your point of,
absolutely. My eldest this weekend actually baked a really nice bloomer bread loaf, white bread. It looked professional, and I was like, dang. So she's learning how to cook and she's exploring it and enjoying it.
That's a great thing.
She's already sort of said, "Hey, can I set up some social? Can I do a YouTube channel?" I'm like, "No, not right now."
Oh, it's funny, right? Where you're like, I don't know about it. There are, both sides to it. But I guess that brings us to the, funny thing, talking social media and some things I saw in the news. I'm going to give you two headlines which seem almost contradictory. One was social media is the top way small businesses get customers over holiday shopping season. And the other was pros and cons of small businesses using social media marketing. So you know what? I completely understand why there's so much confusion for small business owners.
Yeah, and again, it all depends on the type of business you are, what services you're offering, and how you're communicating your brand. I mean, it comes down to one thing, folks. Whether you're a small, medium, or a large